Most of My Hero Academia fans know the popular theory of Dabi being a member of the Todoroki family, but there's another family-centric theory surrounding the hit anime series that has just as much merit. Of course, we're talking about the theory that All For One is in fact Izuka Midoriya's father. It sounds crazy at first, but it becomes more believable with each bit of evidence that comes to light. So, let's take a look, shall we? The center of this theory starts with Star Wars of all places. There are a number of references to Star Wars throughout My Hero Academia, from city names to homages like All For One's black mask, a villainous helmet that also appears to serve as a breathing apparatus, much like Darth Vader's signature headgear. This is because My Hero Academia creator Kohei Horikoshi is a huge Star Wars fan, his love of the franchise clearly making its way into his hit manga series. This love of Star Wars goes beyond references, however, since the entire story structure of My Hero Academia is based on the original trilogy. It's not clear at first glance, but upon further inspection, the comparisons become very present. In the original Star Wars trilogy, Luke's trained by a warrior who's past his prime in Obi-Wan, so then he can take up the fight against a villain, Darth Vader, seeking the additional training of a short, often vague and hard to understand teacher Yoda. Most people know this setup. Now let's apply it to My Hero Academia. Izuka fits in the place of Luke, a person who desires training to reach his goal. A hero who cannot fight like he used to takes him under his wing in All Might, and further training coming from a short, vague teacher in Gran Torino. Also, he can possibly one day face a powerful villain in a black helmet in All For One. The parallels are pretty crazy when you look at them, and with so many similarities, it wouldn't be all that far-fetched to think that the biggest twist of the original Star Wars trilogy will also be paralleled in My Hero Academia. As we all know, Darth Vader revealed himself to be Luke's father in one of cinema's greatest twists of all time. And if the rest of the narrative has been mirrored and paid homage to in My Hero Academia, then it could very well be revealed that All For One is actually the father of Izuka Midoriya. Where's our proof of this? Well, let's start with the fact that Izuka's father, whose name is Hisashi Midoriya, has been completely absent from the story. The only things we know about him is that his work keeps him busy and constantly moving around, which is why he's not home, and that he has the power to breathe fire. Additionally, we know that his given name, Hasashi, translates to a long time ago, which could be another Star Wars reference and a hint at the character's connection to the Darth Vader-like villain of the series. Beyond these details, we don't know much about Izuka's father, and it's this absence and lack of details that actually help fuel the theory that he is in fact All For One. How so? Well, the character's absence is a little strange. For one thing, there are no pictures of Hisashi around the Midoriya household, and beyond the first mention of him, there hasn't been any further reference to the character. Furthermore, Izuku's mother is a rather important figure in his life and in the overall story. So the fact that Kohei Horikoshi would put Inko Midoriya in the spotlight but purposefully leave her husband out is rather suspicious, and implies that there's something bigger going on if one parent is so important and the other is absent. This is arguably the weakest part of the theory, but it's just the beginning, as the possible reason for the absence of Izuka's father opens up another piece of evidence that might begin to convince naysayers that All For One is indeed Hisashi Midoriya. The entire point of All For One's character is that he has the power to steal the quirks of others, and with this power, he has amassed hundreds of quirks, making him the absolute strongest villain on the planet. With all the quirks he's collected over the years, it wouldn't be all that far-fetched that he acquired, say, a memory manipulation quirk, one that'd allow him to have a child with Inko Midoriya and then change her memories. If this is the case, then Inko Midoriya could have been manipulated by All For One into forgetting about the relationship and believing that she had a husband that was absent due to work. If this is the case, then some of you might be asking, why? Which is a fair question. Why exactly would All For One do this? What purpose does it serve him to have a child to begin with? And if he had one, why would he remove himself from their lives? To steal his quirk. Izuka Midoriya was born without a quirk, but what if, instead of this being a natural occurrence, it was actually taken from him at birth? Perhaps All For One has been having children with women all over the world in order to create new quirks that he can steal. It's a bit far-fetched, but if this part of the theory were true, then it would explain why Izuku's father is so absent from his life and from the story. However, since Izuku has a physical trait that shows he was born without a quirk in the form of an extra joint in his toe, this part of the theory is a bit up in the air, but there's a major background detail that could possibly explain this: the fact that Izuku's doctor works for All For One. Look at the doctor that appears in this flashback. He has a mustache and unique-looking goggle-like glasses. Now, take a look at the doctor that has been tending to All For One's severe wounds. He also has a noticeable mustache and unique goggles. Could it be that the doctor who works for All For One also poses as the pediatrician that tends to all the offspring of All For One? If this was the case, it would explain a lot, and it makes this whole theory sound very, very convincing. So basically, it works like this. All For One's having kids to develop new quirks, or to power up the quirks of himself and the women he's having the kids with. Also, he can steal the quirks of the children when they're born. We imagine he's doing this with and to a number of secret families he has all over the country. Yes, we know it'd be super messed up if this was true. And in order to cover his tracks, he's done two things: manipulate the women's memories and use this doctor to tell the children they were just born quirkless, using fake x-rays to back this up. If this is true, then it would be a pretty huge twist, elaborate both within the context of the story and in terms of Horikoshi's writing skill. The aspect of this theory still works even if you tone down the extremity. Let's say All For One doesn't have a quirk factory in the form of multiple families across Japan. Let's say it's less intense than that, and Inko and All For One actually had a meaningful relationship, one that was cut short by one or both of the following reasons. He either found that his son Izuku, who had a powerful quirk that he wanted so much he was willing to steal from his own child and cover it up, or his injuries from his fight with All Might left him so disfigured that he left his family and went into hiding, claiming that he was working abroad to cover it all up. The second situation stretches things a bit, especially since the villain doesn't seem like the type of person to start a family. But both situations in general work to fill in some of the gaps of this theory, especially when it comes to the doctor, who really brings the whole theory together. Izuku being the son of the world's greatest villain being trained by the world's greatest hero to become a great hero himself presents the perfect, strong thematic contrast. And if this turns out to be the case, it'd create a fantastic twist. But that's only half of the equation, and Tomura Shigaraki is the other half. Many know that Shigaraki is the grandson of All Might's teacher and one of the previous users of One For All. Thus, the descendant of one of the world's greatest heroes became a villain. Knowing Horikoshi's writing style, it wouldn't be the craziest assumption to think that he would also make the son of the world's greatest villain destined to be a great hero. If this was the case, then there'd be another great thematic contrast between the two, both rejecting their heritage to carve out their own super-powered paths. All For One being Izuku's father sounds ridiculous, but then you think about it and it does seem possible that this is what Kohei Horikoshi is planning. After all, the guy loves Star Wars, and the classic twist of the films would fit in with his MO. Furthermore, Izuku's father being absent leaves a lot of questions up in the air, all of which conveniently get answered by the concept of this theory. There's also the fact that the thematic contrast of having a major villain be the father of a great hero in training who fights a villain who's the descendant of a great hero would be powerful and deep, tying into the overall theme of Izuku's character that you can be more than what you start as, be it for good or for evil. And there you have it. That's all the evidence we have for this theory. But there's still one more thing to explore regarding it: how it would work for the story. From our perspective, we think it could be an interesting development to learn that Izuku's father has been All For One the whole time, and if it's revealed properly, it could be a great way to lead into a final arc. But it would definitely have to happen towards the end of the series, if there's a planned ending in mind. It would also serve to further the theme of the series, which, as we just mentioned, is the idea of not letting what you are determine who you are. It'd be the ultimate test for Izuku, a trial to show if he truly has escaped what he is to become who and what he's always wanted to be. A hero who rescues others with a smile and a powerful sense of justice. If Izuku finds out that he's the son of the world's greatest supervillain, then he might have a moment of doubt. A moment where he breaks down after realizing that he came from a man so bent on bringing chaos and acquiring power. But knowing Izuku, he'll fight through it and fight against All For One, ignoring his connection connection to him to fight for what he believes in: justice and protecting others.